Hello, my dear friends. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for clicking on this video, and thank you for giving me the chance to finally speak openly about a life I left behind. My name doesn't matter anymore because the person I used to be no longer exists, but what I am about to share is real, raw, and something I have carried in silence for many years. I was once deeply involved in witchcraft, not the fantasy version people joke about, but the kind that operates in secrecy, fear, and spiritual darkness. Today, I'm here to confess something that still sends chills through me, something that shocked even me while I was practicing. There was one thing, just one, that made it absolutely impossible for us to enter certain homes, no matter how powerful we believed ourselves to be. And once you understand what it is, you may never see your own home the same way again. I didn't become a witch overnight, and I didn't start with evil intentions either. Like many, I was drawn in by curiosity, pain, and a desperate need for control over my life. The practices began subtly with rituals that promised protection, success, and hidden knowledge. Over time, I was initiated into deeper circles, places where the rules were strict and the consequences terrifying. We learned how to influence people, how to manipulate spiritual doors, and how to gain access to spaces most people don't even realize exist. Homes, especially, were important to us because a home carries spiritual authority. Some homes were easy, almost welcoming, while others felt like solid walls we could never pass through, no matter what we tried. I remember the first time I was assigned to observe a house we could not enter. From the outside, it looked ordinary, nothing special, no symbols, no visible protections, no warnings. Yet the moment I tried to spiritually approach it, I felt an intense pressure, like being pushed back by an invisible force. My chest tightened, my thoughts scattered, and fear rushed through me in a way I had never experienced before. I reported it to my mentor, expecting to be taught a stronger method, but instead he went silent. That silence told me everything. This wasn't a challenge to overcome. This was a boundary we were forbidden to cross. In our circles, we talked openly about homes that were spiritually open. These were places filled with unresolved anger, constant conflict, addictions, and despair. Such environments made our work easy, almost effortless. Darkness recognizes darkness, and entry was smooth. But then there were homes that felt alive with something else, something that burned without flames. We couldn't see it, but we felt it. Our rituals failed near these houses. Our tools became useless. Even our dreams warned us to stay away. It was as if stepping closer meant risking not just failure, but complete spiritual collapse. What shocked me the most was that these protected homes didn't belong to perfect people. They weren't free of problems, pain, or struggles. Some were messy, loud, and imperfect. Yet they carried a presence that terrified us. That's when I began to notice the pattern, the single common thread among all the homes we could never enter. It wasn't wealth. It wasn't religious symbols on the walls. It wasn't special objects or charms. It was something far simpler, yet far more powerful, and once I understood it, my entire belief system began to crack. You see, in witchcraft, we are taught that intention shapes reality, but intention alone is fragile. What truly blocks darkness is authority, not borrowed authority, but real spiritual authority. These homes carried authority that didn't come from rituals or spells. It came from something living, something active. When we approached, we felt exposed, as if every hidden thing inside us was suddenly visible. That kind of exposure is unbearable in darkness because darkness survives in secrecy. The closer we came, the more powerless we felt until retreat became the only option. There were times when curiosity got the better of me, and I tried to override the warnings. I remember standing outside one such house late at night, performing a silent incantation, confident in my abilities. Halfway through, my voice failed me. My mind went blank. A deep sense of dread flooded me, and I felt an overwhelming urge to leave immediately. That night, I had nightmares of being chased, stripped of power, and consumed by light so intense it burned. When I woke up, I knew I had crossed a line I was never meant to touch. Inside our group, we never mocked these houses. We feared them. They represented something we couldn't corrupt, something that didn't respond to manipulation. We referred to them as sealed, though we never openly discussed what sealed them. Fear kept us quiet. Asking too many questions could get you isolated or worse. Still, whispers spread, and those whispers all pointed to the same truth. These homes were occupied by something greater than any force we served, something that actively resisted us without effort. Over time, I started paying attention not just to the houses, but to the people inside them. There was a peace about them even when life was hard, a sense of grounding. Their words carried weight. Their presence felt steady. They weren't afraid, even when they didn't know what they were protected from. That's when the realization hit me like a thunderbolt. The one thing we could never enter a home that had was not an object, not a symbol, but a presence that lived and moved within those walls every single day. That realization terrified me more than any ritual gone wrong. It meant everything I believed about power was incomplete, maybe even false. If such protection existed without spells, without sacrifices, without secret knowledge, then what did that say about the path I was on? The fear I felt wasn't just fear of the unknown, but fear of the truth. Because once you glimpse real authority, false power loses its shine, and you can never unsee it. As my doubts grew, so did the risks. Questioning things made me vulnerable. Vulnerability in witchcraft is dangerous. Yet I couldn't ignore what I had learned. That one thing, that living presence within those homes, wasn't passive. It was active, watchful, and unwavering. It didn't need to attack us. Its mere existence was enough to stop us completely. And the more I understood that, the more I realized how desperately people need to know this truth. I began secretly testing my understanding, observing from a distance, connecting dots. Every home we couldn't enter shared the same spiritual atmosphere, regardless of location or culture. It crossed boundaries we believed were absolute. That alone should tell you how powerful it was. It wasn't confined to tradition or language. It wasn't summoned. It was welcomed. And once welcomed, it claimed the space entirely. Leaving witchcraft wasn't easy, and it wasn't safe. But knowing what I know now, I had no choice. I had seen the limits of darkness, and I had seen what it feared the most. Fear reveals truth if you're brave enough to listen. And the truth is this: darkness is not as powerful as it pretends to be. There is something it cannot imitate, cannot breach, and cannot destroy. As I stepped away from that life, the memories haunted me. Faces, rituals, warnings, all replayed in my mind. But stronger than all of that was the image of those homes. Quiet, unassuming, yet completely untouchable. They stood as silent testimonies to a power far beyond anything I ever practiced. And if you're listening to this right now, there's a reason. Because what protected those homes is available, and it is real. I'm not sharing this to scare you, but to awaken you. Too many people live unaware of the spiritual realities around them, thinking danger only comes in visible forms. What I learned is that true protection doesn't scream. It doesn't show off. It simply stands, and darkness steps back. That's the kind of protection everyone deserves. Before I reveal the one thing that made us powerless, I want you to understand something very important. In witchcraft, fear is a tool, but there is a difference between fearing danger and fearing truth. What we felt near those homes wasn't panic, it was recognition. Recognition that we were not in control. That something far greater had already claimed that space. When you've spent years believing you hold secret knowledge, coming face to face with something untouchable is deeply unsettling. It shakes your identity, your confidence, and your loyalty to the path you're on. The one thing we could never enter a home that had was the active presence of God, not as a concept, not as a decoration, but as a living authority invited daily through prayer, faith, and surrender. I know how that may sound to some of you, especially if you've been taught to see faith as weak or symbolic. I believed that too. But in practice, nothing was stronger. Homes where God was genuinely welcomed were sealed in a way no spell could undo. We didn't face resistance, we faced absolute denial of access. You see, darkness operates on permission. That's a truth most people don't realize. We could only enter where doors were left open, spiritually speaking. Fear, hatred, unforgiveness, pride, these were invitations. But sincere faith, spoken aloud, lived out, and reinforced daily, closed those doors completely. When people prayed in their homes, not out of habit, but out of belief, it changed the atmosphere. It established authority we couldn't challenge. We felt it in the air. Our thoughts became heavy. Our focus scattered. Rituals lost coherence. It was as if our connection to our own power source was cut off the moment we crossed an invisible boundary. That's because it was. Where God's presence was strong, our source could not function. Darkness cannot exist where light is actively present. And that is not poetry, it is spiritual law. Some of the most protected homes belong to people who didn't even realize how powerful their faith was. They prayed over their children. They spoke blessings over their rooms. They invited peace instead of chaos. Those simple acts built walls we could not penetrate. We were taught to look for symbols, but the real seal was authority, exercised through faith. That authority didn't come from knowledge, but from relationship. I remember once being told, never challenge a praying house. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a rule. Those who ignored it paid a price. Nightmares, mental breakdowns, loss of control. I saw strong practitioners unravel after trying to interfere with such homes. That alone should tell you everything. If darkness truly ruled, it wouldn't fear prayer. But it does, intensely. When I finally left witchcraft and began to understand faith from the other side, everything made sense. Prayer wasn't just words. It was alignment. It was permission given to light. It was authority established. And when that authority is present, darkness has no legal right to enter. That's why those homes were untouchable. Not because of perfection, but because of surrender. If you're wondering why I'm sharing this now, it's because people are searching for protection in all the wrong places. Charms, crystals, rituals, manifestations. I tried them all. None of them compared to the power of a home covered in genuine faith. Darkness knows the difference, even when humans don't. Your home is more than walls and furniture. It's a spiritual territory. What you allow in matters. What you speak matters. What you believe matters. I learned that from the side you're never supposed to hear from. And that knowledge cost me everything, but it also saved me. If you take anything from this confession, let it be this: you are not powerless. You never were. True protection doesn't come from controlling forces, but from submitting to the one force darkness cannot overcome. That is the truth we feared the most. Thank you for listening to my story, for staying until the end, and for being open to hearing something uncomfortable but real. If this message reached you, it was not by accident. Stay aware, stay protected, and never underestimate the power of faith inside your home.